Investigations are underway after a car burst into flames outside Maristella High School this morning, while thankfully no one was hurt. Australia is facing a national health crisis as COVID-19 cases hit new highs. We have the latest from Sydney. And don't miss it, Singapore Art Week kicks off on Friday and we've got all the highlights. It's 5:30 p.m. here in Singapore. You're watching The Big Story with me, Haryanto Diman. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. It may have seemed like any other morning when parents drop off their kids at school. For one mother and her primary one son, it was anything but. They narrowly escaped from the car they were travelling in before it caught fire. The black Mercedes-Benz that the mother was driving burst into flames outside Maristella High School along Bartley Road at about 7:30 this morning. Fortunately, both were not hurt. The mother told the Straits Times that when they smelled something burning, her son told her to quickly get out of the car. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Straits Times executive photographer Kua Chee Siong was at Maristella High School this morning and he joins us now. Chee Siong, I understand you were actually on a different assignment there. Tell us what you saw firsthand.
Hi, Haryanto. Yes, I was on another assignment this morning. I was taking pictures of vehicles entering the school. So at about 7:30, I first noticed smoke rising from a car, which was parked in front of the school. So as a photographer, my first instinct was to try to get a better shot. So I headed to the nearest overhead bridge. By the time I got there was a lot of smoke coming out of the car. And it must have been about 5 minutes later when it burst into flames. And the flames got bigger and bigger. At the point of time, I heard screams from a few women who were watching from the bridge beside me. They were really, really shocked to see the car in flames. While I was taking pictures, I also saw a motorcyclist getting off his bike and helping to divert traffic on the road. The SCDF arrived shortly after that to put out the fire, as you can see from the pictures. So the firefighters were using 2 hoses to completely put out the fire. So that was my morning today.
And Chee Siong, it is a relief to know that both mother and son managed to get out of the car before it exploded. The executive photographer Kua Chee Siong. Singapore Airlines says travellers who are part of its frequent flyer programs will get another extension to the expiry dates of their miles and statuses. KrisFlyer miles expiring this year will be automatically extended by 6 months at a time at the end of each period. PPS rewards and KrisFlyer milestone rewards due to expire anytime this year will also have their expiry date extended to December 31st. And PPS Club and KrisFlyer Elite statuses due to expire between March this year and February next year will be automatically extended for another year. Singapore must keep reinventing itself to stay relevant and competitive, especially in a post-pandemic world. Well, that is the message from Health Minister Ong Ye Kung, who gave a keynote speech this morning on the resilience of cities and countries. He also described the pandemic as a reset button, forcing us to rethink the way we do things in smarter and better ways.
The process of coping with the pandemic has tested our mettle as a city. We had to roll with the punches and adapt to all kinds of twists and turns. We didn't try to shut down every infection cluster, but we tried to brave through and ride the infection wave. And to do this, we have had to rely on people's personal responsibility and civic consciousness. While all these have been done out of necessity, I believe it has helped us grow as a people. I hope it is the start of a societal attitude that is more forgiving of imperfections, embracing setbacks and failures, appreciating resilience, ruggedness, enterprise, and even being unconventional.
Taxi and private hire car drivers who have taken at least one shot of the COVID-19 vaccine have until January 31st to complete their vaccination regime, with no further extension allowed. In a Facebook post, Senior Minister of State for Transport Ms Quek says that extending the timeline for these drivers would in fact be putting them at greater health risk. About 0.5% of drivers who are medically eligible, about 300 of them have yet to receive at least one dose. Overseas, another record caseload in Australia with more than 147,000 new cases reported so far today. And the hardest hit is its most populous New South Wales state. 53 new deaths have been confirmed today. After successfully containing COVID-19 earlier in the pandemic, Australia has reported nearly 1 million cases over the last 2 weeks as people slowly get adjusted to living with the virus amid fewer restrictions. With more is Australia correspondent Jonathan Pearlman joining us from Sydney. John, Australia has seen daily highs for the past few days, another record today. What's the mood like in the country and how has the crisis affected day-to-day life?
Yes, so it's a big change for Australia, which, like Singapore, hadn't really experienced any of these phenomenally high case counts that we've seen all around the world. And then suddenly, case numbers have just spiraled, particularly in the states of New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland. So the mood has been one of surprise and confusion and some degree of chaos as Australians have had to quickly adapt and the government has had to quickly adapt and change rules very quickly to try to adjust to this enormous outbreak. Life is continuing as normal. We've just come out of the Christmas New Year break, so things here are always a little bit quiet at this time of year, but things are a lot quieter than normal. People are avoiding shops. A lot of people are wearing masks even when they're not required to. Australians are still sort of waiting and seeing about what this outbreak will mean for them.
Right. John, the government has so far not announced any lockdowns to curb the spread. So what's the plan now to manage this wave of cases as the healthcare system comes under growing pressure?
It's a very good question because it's not altogether clear that there really is a plan. It's been difficult for people to get tests. The government's quickly moved away from PCR testing, which really wasn't able to cope, to rapid antigen at-home tests. For now, governments have been avoiding lockdowns and continued with the end of restrictions. But what they're hoping is that hospitalisations remain contained, that people, even despite the high vaccination rate, that younger Australians, now 5 to 11-year-olds, are able to vaccinate, so that younger Australians will vaccinate as quickly as possible. And that hospitalisations will remain low, ICU numbers, intensive care numbers will remain low. And so the easing of restrictions will continue and we won't have to return to lockdowns. That's the hope. But for now, the plan, if there is one, continues to change.
Let's talk about testing. You mentioned as well regarding PCR and rapid antigen tests. Australians are having trouble buying rapid antigen tests due to a lack of supply, and because of this as well, shops are boosting the price of the kits. But we understand that the government has bought $62 million worth of the test kits. Do you think it will help to solve the shortage problem?
Look, it's one of the big changes here is that for 2 years, authorities urged Australians, even if they had the tiniest scratchy throat, to go out to one of the testing centres. Suddenly, we're being told not to go to any of the testing centres, stay at home, get tested at home, and use an at-home test. The problem has been there hasn't been enough at-home tests to accommodate all Australians. Supermarkets have run out of them. Chemists have run out of them. So the government is now, quickly trying to import as many as possible. Supermarkets say they're on their way. It's going to take some time before there are enough tests reaching enough Australians that they're able to test at home as required. And the other difficulty is cost. These tests cost a lot. Some shops have been caught price gouging or lifting their prices unfairly because of the short supply. And for some people, particularly people on low wages, it's been very difficult to afford the tests they need to make sure that their families are healthy.
Jonathan, thank you for the updates. Australia correspondent Jonathan Pearlman in Sydney. Over in Melbourne, where crowds at the upcoming Australian Open will be capped at 50%. Face masks will also be mandatory and spectators must socially distance while indoors. All staff and players must be vaccinated, and while the vast majority are, world number one Novak Djokovic is not, which has sparked a global incident. He's been training at Melbourne Park since a federal court reinstated his visa on Monday. And now it's that time of the week for Live Picks with Olivia Quay.
From Insta-worthy business parks to Chinese New Year feasts, we've got it all in this week's Live Picks. But first, here's something for this weekend. Singapore Art Week kicks off on Friday with more than 130 events taking place all across the island. Arts correspondent To Wen Lee has done the hard work for us. So Wen Lee, what are your top recommendations?
Yeah, so this year's Art Week is very exciting. I'd say Tanjong Pagar District Park is definitely one place you must visit. It's going to be a hive of activity, as well as some exhibitions, soul open call projects. And of course, the Singapore Art Museum's new space in the building, which has several interesting exhibitions. One of them is a fascinating project by the Observatory Band, and it's inspired by mushrooms. So it's about compositions and decompositions. You listen to the rhythms of mushrooms in that show. Of course, there is the annual Light Tonight Festival, which is back again, and it will light up the Civic District. This is obviously not an exhaustive list in any shape or form. There's so much to see in Bras Basah, Gillman Barracks, Aliwal Arts Centre, and there's even going to be a Chinese street opera stage at Prinsep Street. It's already up in Prinsep Street. Yeah, so definitely lots to see. Read our story and go to the Art Week website to comb through the whole list if you wish to make up your mind for yourselves. Very exciting.
Arts correspondent To Wen Lee. If you haven't started planning for Chinese New Year yet, I hate to tell you that restaurant reservations are filling up fast, but not to worry. Food correspondent Ms Quek has been researching the best offerings for takeaway or delivery. So Eunice, which ones do you like the most?
So I like Peony Jade's dim sum set. They are really good for a light lunch or tea at home. The set includes these really cute tiger-shaped chocolate lotus-based baos and baked ornie tarts. The other one is Goodwood Park Hotel's Sweet Abundance tier set, which basically comes in this lovely packaging, so it's really good for gifts as well. And some of the highlights, it features pineapple ingot tarts and mandarin orange pound cake. So really nice to share with the family or for small gatherings at home.
That was food correspondent Ms Quek. And finally, it's not all strictly business at Singapore's industrial parks. I know it's not the first place that comes to mind when you think of an Insta-worthy location. Senior correspondent Chantal Sargent has been checking out two industrial parks in particular. Chantal, tell us about what you've discovered.
Well, the main thing is that there are two kinds of parks. People think of industrial parks as, one size fits all. In fact, it's not. There's a business park, which is One North, which is what I wrote about. One North is more like an ecosystem. It's not exactly for manufacturing. And there's another park, which is the industrial park, which is heavy duty, heavy lifting, manufacturing stuff that goes on. And that's the Seletar Aerospace Park. Now, Seletar Aerospace Park is really unusual. What JTC has done is it's reimagined what we previously thought of as dusty, grey industrial estates. Seletar Aerospace Park is open to everyone. So families from outside of the park who are not, related to the employees can also come in there to look at their F&B outlets, to avail themselves of many amenities, the greenery, the boardwalk. You've also got things like a candy wonderland. Can you imagine that in a industrial park? You've got a candy wonderland going on now till February 22nd. The other one, of course, is One North. One North has differentiated itself with this particular estate called Wessex. Again, black and white houses, old, reminiscent of the 1940s. So what is happening with the two business parks is the vibe is changing. And this is a change for the better, because then more people can get involved with business parks and industrial estates, where previously they were gated communities and they were dusty and people really were not interested in them. So the reimagining has really worked, and I think there's going to be more activities planned towards the run up to the halfway mark of the year. Right now we've got activities planned till February 22nd, and I think things are looking up for business parks and industrial estates.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Senior Correspondent Chantal Sajan. And that's Life Picks for this week. There's something for everyone at Singapore Art Week, which starts tomorrow until January 23rd. For more on what's happening, you'll find the highlights in Wen Li's story at str.sg/life.
Thank you, Olivia. Now for more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. See you tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.